Hello everybody. In this video we are going to discuss about the bacteria Staphylococcus aureus. If we break this word down, Staphylococcus refers to a cluster of cocci bacteria and aureus refers to the golden color. So Staphylococcus aureus are a bunch of bacteria that are round or spherical in shape and golden in color. They are catalase positive, coagulase negative, non-sporing bacteria who are facultative anaerobes. Staphylococcus aureus are also non-motile organisms. They are the common flora of the skin, groin, armpits, nostrils and several other regions. It's important to keep in mind that Staphylococcus aureus are present in the nostrils. These bacterial colonies growing on your body surface, they can enter your body through microfissures or through major fissures. Now major fissures are like wounds or when you've undergone a surgery. When they enter through these fissures into your body, they may lead to several skin infections like a pimple or a carbuncle or an abscess, which is a collection of pus. They may also infect the epidermal layer of the skin and may lead to impetigo. They may also go deep down to infect the dermis layer, causing cellulitis. When an abscess grows so big that it starts infecting the structures below the dermis as well, it can lead to infection of the muscle, ultimately leading to pyomastosis. It may also lead to infection to the bone, causing osteomyelitis, or an infection to the joint, leading to septic arthritis. If Staphylococcus aureus manages to make its way into the bloodstream of the organism, it may lead to several CNS problems like bacterial meningitis or an epidural abscess. It may cause pneumonia, endocarditis. It mainly affects the valves when it causes endocarditis. Staphylococcus aureus can infect IV lines, prosthetics and other stuff. They infect these devices by forming a biofilm on their surface. What makes these organisms most deadly is their ability to form biofilms. These biofilms act as an additional safety guard for these bacteria, as it prevents any kind of antibiotics from entering these biofilms and ultimately gaining access to the bacteria in order to kill them. It also prevents any kind of immune cell to actually go and kill or phagocytose these bacteria. These biofilms are also highly beneficial for these microbes to send biochemical signals and communicate with one another. In order to treat Staphylococcus aureus infections on prosthetic devices, we'll have to remove the prosthetic device. They are also called as superantigens due to the toxins that they produce. There are mainly 5 kinds of toxins that Staphylococcus aureus produces. It produces a toxic shock syndrome toxin, a Panton-Valentine leucocidin toxin, Hemolysin, Exfoliatin, and Enterotoxin. Let's start with the toxic shock syndrome toxin. When Staphylococcus aureus enters into the human body, it binds with the MHC2 receptor on the antigen presenting cell. But this binding results in an extra stimulation of the immune cell, which results in too much of cytotoxin being produced. These cytotoxins result in fever, rash, and hypotension or low blood pressure. This is called as toxic shock syndrome. In severe conditions, organs may not be acquiring the adequate amount of oxygen that they require from the blood vessels. This is a severe case that is possible during the toxic shock syndrome. Next, let's talk about the Panton-Valentine leucocidin toxin. A pant with hearts helps us memorize Panton-Valentine. In this condition, the toxin creates several pores in the leukocyte, and these pores result in a dead leukocyte. Hence, the leukocytes get killed when this toxin is released. This may result in tissue death. Next, we have hemolysin. Hemolysin is a toxin which breaks the blood cells. When these blood cells break, the hemoglobin that's present in the blood cells is released. Hemoglobin have iron in them, and this iron is a golden present for the Staphylococcus aureus bacteria. You may ask, why is it a golden present? That's because Staphylococcus aureus uses iron in its metabolism. Hence, it's a win-win situation for this bacteria. Next, we'll discuss exfoliatin. So if you know the word exfoliation, it's basically associated with the skin. Hence, exfoliatin is a toxin that causes a skin condition. It leads to the SSSS syndrome. In this condition, the skin may develop several fluid-filled blisters on the surface, and these blisters are quite painful. Finally, we come to the last toxin that's released by Staphylococcus aureus, which is enterotoxin. Enterotoxin may be present on food, and it may cause food poisoning, which is identified by vomiting and diarrhea. Enterotoxin is not heat labile, which means it cannot be killed by heating. So cooking the food or heating it at a high temperature may not help in getting rid of all the enterotoxin. When we eat food that's contaminated with enterotoxin, it may enter our blood, and this may lead to a toxic shock syndrome. Now that we know that Staphylococcus aureus, although it's the common flora of our skin, but if it manages to enter our body, it can result in several disastrous effects. Hence, we need to know a way to treat it. So how do we treat Staphylococcus aureus? Initially, we would treat it by giving the patient penicillin. How does penicillin help in treating this condition? These bacteria have the enzyme DD transpeptidase in them. This enzyme is a penicillin-binding protein. Its function is to help arrange various factors of the peptidoglycan cell wall by linking them together appropriately. Penicillin destroyed DD transpeptidase, and therefore the cell wall becomes leaky and the bacteria dies. Staphylococcus aureus, being its smart self, developed resistance to penicillin. Since penicillin is a beta-lactam antibiotic, it started to make beta-lactamase, which destroyed the beta-lactam antibiotic. Hence, we had to develop another method in order to destroy this bacteria. That's when we discovered methicillin. Methicillin is a beta-lactam antibiotic, but it is not easily destroyed by the beta-lactamase that is produced by Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus aureus, being very adaptive in nature, it developed the MEK-A gene, which started making a special PBP, which is not destructible by a beta-lactam antibiotic. These bacteria are known as MRSA, or methicillin-resistive Staphylococcus aureus. There are two types of MRSA that are found. MRSA can be found in the community, or they can be found in healthcare units. To treat MRSA-associated diseases, we have developed a glycopeptide antibiotic called vancomycin. But vancomycin is not highly effective. But since Staphylococcus aureus is so adaptive, it has still gained two strains. One is a strain that is having intermediate resistance to vancomycin, and the other is a strain that has complete resistance to vancomycin. The one which has intermediate resistance is VRSA, and the one which has obtained complete resistance to vancomycin is VRSA. We currently are in the research stage in order to find an appropriate treatment method for MRSA. So this video was all about Staphylococcus aureus, its pathology, the conditions that it causes, and various treatment methods for the same. I hope this video was helpful in understanding Staphylococcus aureus. That's all we have for today. Thank you.